Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started now. My name is Amy Johnston, and I'm the manager of the web-based teaching tool. I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to WebIt's first webinar. We're very excited to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Stéphane Beaulne, who will be speaking to us this morning about the interdisciplinary team approach, understanding child behavior to plan and monitor student learning through play. Just to let you know, all webinar participants except for the presenter have now been muted for the remainder of the presentation. Although once Dr. Beaulne has finished his presentation, we will be opening up the floor for any questions that you might have. If at any point during the presentation you experience any technical difficulties, please contact Shannon Malik at the phone number provided on this slide, as she will be standing by to help you. Before we get started, I just want to help everyone get comfortable with the GoToWebinar control panel. You should be seeing this on the right-hand side of your screen, and it should look like this. If you don't see the full panel, this orange arrow should appear, and you can click on this to maximize or minimize the panel. At the top of the control panel, you'll see an audio heading right here. And if you choose to access the audio portion of your presentation by telephone by clicking in the circle here, you'll see a series of prompts on the screen which will allow you to access the audio by calling in. Over the course of the presentation, if you would like to ask any questions, you can enter your questions in this box down at the bottom, and we'll get all of your questions answered by Stéphane at the end of the presentation. And once his presentation has concluded, if you would like to ask a question over your microphone, you can click on the hand raise button, and Shannon will ensure that you get unmuted so that you can have that opportunity to share your questions. Prior to the webinar, you should have received PowerPoint slides for Dr. Beaulne's presentation. After the webinar, we'll be sending out presentation notes as well as a link to a survey to let us know how you think the webinar went. And in approximately 1 week, the webinar recording will be available, and we will send out a link to all of our participants. All right, so that takes care of all our housekeeping this morning, so I'd like to get started now. And I would like to introduce Dr. Stéphane Beaulne at this time. Dr. Beaulne is a clinical consultant with the Autism Spectrum Clinical Team for Eastern Ontario with the Conseil scolaire de District Catholique de l'Est Ontarien. Dr. Beaulne's clinical and research focus is in the area of individual and program development, implementation, and evaluation. He has particular expertise in ASD and behavior principles, having specialized in autism, with an emphasis in the development of programs and strategies for supporting children, youth, and adults with ASD in the health, community, educational, and vocational sectors through coordinated models of care and support. His strategies are both child-direct and in the form of coaching to professionals and families. So at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dr. Beaulne.
Good morning, everyone. So what I'd like to talk about this morning is really about what we are referring to when we address interdisciplinary team. What are some of the steps in the intervention process, observation methods, observation, assessment, and communication tools. Also look at intervention plan, the planning aspect of it, behavioral expectation, and teaching strategies. I think what's important to understand is this new interest in interdisciplinary approach is really important for us. We've started in our own school board a committee that addresses that approach based on the fact that we strongly believe in having everyone involved in the students' services or well-being to be part of the process. So what we've done is we've created a committee that talks to different administrators, educators, healthcare workers if they are involved, but especially the parents. What we've done is really to base our services and have a really direct influence on the learning process, because after all, we're in a school environment. So what we've done is really put together a team where we are able to address different services and also support teachers and all the different professionals that are involved in the new initiative with the ministry incorporating play into the learning process. The reason being is we've seen, I've been with the board now for the last 3 years, and we've seen that many children unfortunately come in the school setting and they lack certain skills. So we've decided as a team, as a school board, to really work closely with family members, and each time we address any issues, we incorporate the family directly. So any recommendation that is made in regards to a service or different strategies that are going to be used in a classroom or with a specific students, we always make sure to have everyone around the table to talk about it. The reason being is we need to focus mainly on the child's well-being, the quality of life, because the behaviors that we see in the school setting often are also behaviors that have been learned outside the school. So at that age, often it's based in the household. So we've created this collaboration and hopefully to better serve young children. The goals that we've put together for us as a team is really to raise awareness on student situation. Having said that, what we've realized is, especially when the young children comes into the school environment, we see a lot of behaviors often that are problematic. So we've decided to really put emphasis on prevention, and that's one of the main factor of this interdisciplinary team approach, is to really get everyone involved in order to prevent rather than always be reactive to certain behaviors or certain situation. We also want to always identify the best person, the best professional to address the issue. We see now with the new initiative and incorporating play, but also having a teacher and also often an educator involved, depending on the children that are in that classroom. We've seen through our new initiative of having this team approach that we are able to get also school principals involved directly in the process. For us, rather than always be in the crisis mode, we've really worked hard the last year and a half to do a lot of prevention, but also teach different professionals some of the main skills that we need in order to answer and offer the best services possible. I think the best objective or the element that is really important for us is to really share a common vision of the problems that we see. We always are facing the reality of subjectivity anytime we talk about behaviors. So often when we are called in, by the time we get involved, sometimes it's too late because people are tired. There's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of friction between parents and the school team. So what we've created is opportunity to really focus on prevention. So now our focus this year has really been for all the young kids, children coming in the school system, because we want to support these children, but also support the professional, because that's really the best time in their life as a student to really focus on teaching skills. The steps we've decided to put together is to always provide an overview. So we do a lot of the different classroom. We do a lot of the observation before getting involved. We also have trained a lot of our different professionals at different levels in the school setting in order to support each other. And it's also the best time for us to define the problem. What's happening in that classroom, what's happening with a specific student or with a classroom. Often it's hard because all these young children are coming in with their own history. So we try to focus on the group process rather than label specific children. The process we've put together is to really inform the school principal of the situation. We get the school principal involved from the get-go. They are an important professional for us. We get a lot of information from both the families and the school team, and we get the school principal involved. We've trained many of them to do observation, to do supervision in the classroom, to review any intervention plan that we've put together in order to have a really positive outlook, but also have everyone that are involved in the process to be accountable for what's happening with these children. We also use the process is to coordinate a meeting between the educators, the parents, and even if it's external professional. We do a lot of follow-up where we invite everyone around the table and either we'll do a review of if all the objective and the intervention plan and strategies are working, and from there we either readjust or we will close certain files based on the success of the process and the intervention plans. So that's really what we've been focusing on in our intervention process.
Stéphane, sorry, it's Amy. Sorry to interrupt. Could I ask you to put your screen into full presentation mode for us? Okay. Just at the bottom right-hand side with your PowerPoint. Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. So the other aspect that we've addressed this year is really to do case studies. We have decided as a team to really focus on preparing a well-documented case study, because we want to define concrete goals for this student or this situation. We also want to determine progress indicators in order to assess the goals that have been set. For us, accountability is really important. Each time I do observation and give recommendation to a specific team, I always make sure that we have goals that respect the following conditions. Pertinence, are the goals adapted to the needs of the students, the school staff, and the parents? Because if not, so what's the use of exposing a student to an intervention plan if nobody is able to assess it, to implement it, and to keep collaboration with the family? If I see that anytime I give recommendation to the parents and the school team that there's resistance, or I will always make sure that we don't implement nothing yet. So we need to always come to a common vision. That's so important in the interdisciplinary approach, because before, in the multidisciplinary aspect of it, we kept relying on the expert that was responsible either for the evaluation or observation or recommendation, and then the rest of the team would only be accountable to these recommendations. The interdisciplinary team approach is way different. So everyone, based on what the issue is, we identify automatically who's going to be the lead, and after that, who's going to be also accountable to the implementation. So often what we implement in the school setting, we'll ask the parents to collaborate with us and continue the process at home. Feasibility is also important to really look. Are the goals attainable for the student, the school staff, the parents? So how much time do we need? Is it possible in that environment? Is everyone understanding the time and effort that it will need to be able to accomplish something? And also we look at the availability of the resources. It's one thing to give recommendation. I think that's also important for us when I talk about accountability. Anyone that does evaluation or observation before we sit down with the entire team and the parents, we need to look at the resources. If there's no resources available, we're not going to just sit down and give recommendations that are non-functional or impossible to implement at this time in that environment. I think this is important because before we've seen it, and often we see it with students that have IAPs, for example. There's a lot of objectives, there's a lot of recommendations, but nobody to oversee that all these objectives are part of the daily routine of a student. And so that, for me, is a really important factor. The common vision, I will never say it enough. The goals that have been set are appropriate for the students, the parents, and the school staff. If we are able to, I try to always have the student also involved, explain. If it's a young kid, I'll do it through play and ask them how they feel, for example, in a classroom, what they need to see, how secure they feel, what they like, they don't like in that environment. So I'm able to also get the buy-in from the student because they're able to express themselves, especially when you do it through play. You're able to get a lot of important information. And then what we do is really develop intervention strategies and define the means to implement these strategies. Once we leave the table, automatically somebody will be the lead and coordinate everything, and we do follow up regularly. So I have the luxury of having educators with me. So what we do is I do a lot of the initial observation and recommendation, but I also then train educators to implement intervention strategies, or I will do a lot of direct intervention and coaching with the teachers, school principal, parents if needed, because I keep in close contact with everyone that's involved. When we talk about the intervention process, what I'd like to really address this morning is really the importance of observation. The observation process is, this is where we gather all our information. This is where we have our hypothesis to work from. It's really hard to just implement, and this is what's happening often with a lot of the situation is people go where they understand what best practice is, but you have to keep in mind of the student's profile, what are the needs, the strengths of that students, what is the situation, who's involved before implementing anything. So we are really focusing on observation. Why? Because we don't believe that we can reach our goal if we do not do observation of students' behavior. Because if not, then it becomes subjectivity, and often we will have the inappropriate strategies to answer or reach a certain objective. And how can we consider students as primary agents in their development if we do not observe their behavior and provide them with the appropriate level of help or support at the precise moment when they need it? So this is really important for us, is when we talk about observation, is we need the students to guide us through the observation aspect of what are the needs, what's happening in that student's daily life in the school setting, for example. And sometimes it's issues that come from outside the school setting. So we do observation for that in order to ask for clarification often from the parents. How can we respond to the individual needs of students if we have if we don't have a specific profile? How can we work with parents toward the students' harmonious development if we aren't able to communicate relevant information about the child? So really, that's why we are putting a lot of emphasis on observation. And also, without observation, it's really hard to assess the quality of the services and activities that are provided, especially now with a lot of the insecurity about reintegrating play in the classroom. There's a lot of insecurity in regards to that. So it's important even now to really look at observation as a key element to provide the other information. Like anything, the observation also is the way to get your baseline data. What we've done, these are what you see on your screen, these are examples of what we've been asked to do up to now about relationship difficulties, the quality of interaction between kids and adults and kids with their peers. What we've seen also is the means of communication used. Some kids that are really impulsive or that have a lot of difficulty socially tend to use maladaptive behavior to communicate their intention. So we've looked at that closely. The social and emotional interaction within the classroom, circumstances in which the behavior occurs, we've looked at that. We've trained people to do that. And also, what are we, I also put a lot of emphasis on the hierarchy of behaviors. Often when you see maladaptive behaviors, if you're reactive all the time, usually you see the top level of the behavior being used. But there's also an antecedent to that. There's also indicators before the child or the kid or the student reaches a certain level of maladaptive behavior. So we've taught people how to do observation at specific time and to try to identify the triggers. Play, like I said, we are really focusing on play. So what we've done is really teach and help students and also a lot of the professional how to do observation, what to look for, like for example, with whom does the student play, how does the student play, what type of toys does the student uses, how the student behaves in games with rules. These are all really questions that we are asking ourselves when we go in the classroom to do observation, transitioning, really when the student is really overexcited, how they use maladaptive behaviors. So anything that has to do through the play aspect, I think what's happening in many professionals are a bit confused. They get confused because we talk about free play as being guided by the student to enjoy certain toys or certain games and to let them evolve through that process and self-motivate. But for the adults, there's really a specific aspect of our work is to really play, is to have observation methods that are used to gather some information. The main one is always direct observation. What we do is really, what we've done up to now is really structured observation. So going in and seeing a student when he's engaged a predetermined task to see how is he or is she able to complete the task, is how does she organize herself, how does she ask for help if needed. So we've done a lot within the structured observation aspect of it. We've also done open observation. Usually I do a lot of that when I get in for the first time, where the teacher will present me as someone from the school board that is coming in to see how they work, how they play. So all the students are informed and I'm part of them. I'm part of that process, so that means I'm also part of the behaviors that I'm seeing. So I've got to be smart enough to differentiate between my presence in the classrooms compared to the behaviors that are there no matter who's around. We've done incidental observation, not planned, so just called in, especially during crisis situation. So these are all different types. We've also done peer observation, we've done video assisted observation. We've also done a lot of the indirect observation like portfolio, for example. And I'll just give you some of the examples that we have here. A lot of the teachers often will ask me, well, I don't have time to do observation. I was not trained to do that. Often what I do to really help them and focus on their role as teachers is to do a lot of the portfolio aspect to really take in some of the work that these students are doing, and then based on other observation checklists or the grid that we built, we are able to really see if there's a correlation between the behaviors that we're seeing and the results of some of the work. It could be a drawing, could be anything they do, how they manipulate toys, how they manipulate during different activities, how they interact with other kids. We're able to try to correlate really the behaviors we're seeing and the performance we're getting out of these students in the specific environment. So we see a lot of anecdotal record of student behavior. This is one thing we need to watch though. Anecdotal is really subjective. So each time I get these report, I always, that's the first step. Then the next step for me is always to try to get observable behaviors out of that, and then I'll build a grid and we'll go see directly in the school setting how things are. So these are all different methods we can use, questionnaires to the parents also, with the students, team-based while we're really focusing on a specific team during the school. So when people say there's not different opportunities, these are all great examples that we can use in the school setting, especially through play and in different environments. So when we get to the intervention plan, what's really important for us is to be able to always keep, when we're talking about interdisciplinary approach, is we plan with the involvement of the student, the school staff, and the student's parents. Each time that we are going to implement something in the classroom or that we're looking at recommendation, we always make sure that the parents are involved. And then after that, and what I mean by having the students is not, we're not going to talk to a young child as if we're talking to an adult. Often is we'll meet with the parents and the school team, and after that what we do is we will bring in the student and just show the student that we're all working together, that we all want the best for him or her, and then that what we are going to implement and what we're going to do with that specific student. So it's important, and especially when you see that both sides are talking to one another, that we're all part of the global process, often it gives better results. So what we do in the global process is really to do an evaluation of the student's strengths and needs, and then we'll talk about, we'll have a discussion to see if the results we're getting, so some of the strengths, do the parents see the same thing in their child, so at home or every environment, all the professionals involved, do we see that, the school principal, or do they agree, is it a specific teacher, is it other kids, whatever it is, we will talk about it, have a clear vision of where we're going, and then we'll have a written plan and monitor the intervention after that process. But we don't go in without that process being put in place. So why? Because that facilitates communication between everyone involved in that student's life. So we'll, like I said, the planning, we'll set goals, plan activities, set a deadline for us, like the team that I monitor and supervise right now. We go in, but everyone inside that school knows when we're, what's the deadline and everything. So we're working on specific objective. We're not going in and staying there for months and months because each day there's something new happening. So we go with specific objectives to work. And we assess the effectiveness of our abilities. So within the interdisciplinary approach, I meet with my team every Monday morning. We talk about everything. We talk about the new referral. We talk about all the different cases we're involved in, and then we start planning when we're going to do a follow-up with the team, school team, the parents, our people at the board, and we move on from that. What we also like to look in the planning process is really to the development of behavioral objectives. Everything has to be observable and measurable. So where does the information comes from? It arises from our observation of the different professionals. We try to always get at least 2 or 3 professionals, including family members, to do observation to get the frequency and the duration or the behaviors that we see happening in different environments, to make sure that we are addressing and that it's not just contextual or situational with someone. Or so we try to always get various professional and family members to do observation of the same behaviors that we've identified. We inform the student of the expectation, so that's through our intervention plan. We'll facilitate the selection of appropriate material and strategies, facilitate selection of tasks that will enable the student to reach the targeted goals, and allow for continuous evaluation and measurement of the student progress. So that's our main aspect within our behavioral objectives that we are really identifying and implementing within. Why? Because for us, the evolution of the objectives, we, especially when we talk about play, and we've seen through the new initiative with the ministry, they rely a lot on Vygotsky. Vygotsky was one of the main researcher and clinical person to really talk about always being, the adult has to play a role of being a model for the students, but also to make sure that we identify emerging skills. So if the child is able to complete or show certain skill with the guidance of an adult, this is our baseline. So we build from what's being in emergence, and then we build from that to really see and structure our practice. So then once we see that the student is responding really well to the presence of the adults, then we'll try to, because our goal is independence. Every new students coming in from the get-go, we work on independence. There's too many students that are dependent on prompts from the adults, and they lack self-esteem. They have fear of doing a lot of the task or anything without the presence of an adult, and that's hard to really decondition after. So we go through that evolution of generalization. Once the students is able to generalize the skills that we're teaching in different environments, then hopefully maintenance will come in. But through the emergence aspect of it, we need to figure out if the retention of the information is really part of the process. Often we show something or try to teach a skill, but we realize that our strategies being used or the way that we are teaching it is not appropriate, so there's no retention of that information. So it's almost every day I have to start new. So we need to figure out is what's the best strategies to use. So what are some of the expectations? These are all examples that we've used in the system. As you can see, the expectation, for example, in this case, was to understand and follow verbal instruction. But if you look at the end, the skill was to follows instruction when the adults. But as you can see, what we've done is really almost like a task analysis, made different steps of helping the children getting the skill, but also learning how to get there. So these are all different ways that we've done. So again, based on behavioral principle, we use a lot of prompting at first, different types of prompting, and then hopefully we get to the skills. So that one was for verbal instruction. If you will, one of the big issue was it's always to follow routines in the class. So that's another skill that we've worked in many of the classroom because the skill that the teacher wanted to address was to participate in activities, circle time, tidying up, nap, bathroom, meals, using just a prompt by a certain amount of time. So we made sure, and as you can see at the bottom, there's comments. So any professional that works these skills will help us. We'll keep track of what has been done, where and when, and also we send that at home with the kids. So the parents are able to also help us contribute. If you look at this one, follow rules in the class. So same thing. The skill was to follow classroom rules with reminders. We also have to be realistic. They're young children, so it's important not to think that they're adults and that we don't need to prompt them often when they're younger, hopefully to be able to retain that information and then use it appropriately. Often I see adults asking way too much out of a young child. The other one was plays well with other children. That's an issue also, sharing toys, and so we've created this. These are all factual intervention plans that we've implemented in many of our classroom through play, and it helps the teachers to really focus on specific levels or steps of what we should see that guides us that we are heading the right way with the children. Knows how to share and respects the rights of others. So these are all behaviors that we've looked through the years. It's really, I find it's really accurate. It's really interesting because everyone's accountable. We are using a written document. Everyone has an opportunity to add comments. So we've done it this way, and it's really providing us with great information. So if I look at the strategies before we end, we do a lot of modeling. Like I said, the adult is really, so we've been training adults how to model certain skills, certain activities, certain intervention plans that we've implemented. Modeling is part of it. So we do a lot of direct intervention where the teachers will be an observer and look what we're doing. We've done a lot of video modeling with a puppet, especially for those that are with selective mutism. Often they're too shy, so by using a puppet and using the iPad, for example, we've seen many of them showing great progress. Video self-modeling, so often we'll do a task analysis through the iPad rather than having the pictures or having the sequence through paper. We'll use the iPad. Skills embedded in daily activities. This is where we do a lot of in vivo intervention in our practice on a daily basis. What it is we address directly, it's called embedded skills, so we address directly the situation as it goes. So we talk to the entire classroom. We don't focus on specific children. We will just use that opportunity to teach proper behavior to the entire classroom and ask for their feedback. Task analysis is probably one of the best strategies to use, is where you put every step that the child needs to implement in order to have success and reach and complete a specific task. So we've been using that a lot. I use that a lot at every level. Reinforcement, what I do a lot is, a lot of people do simple and direct reinforcement. What we've done is really focus on vicarious reinforcement. People tend to always focus on maladaptive behavior rather than focus on the students that are showing us the appropriate behavior. So we do a lot of vicarious reinforcement in order to avoid other children imitating behaviors that are inappropriate because they want the attention of the adult. And also for the adult is to really augment what the behaviors that you want to see. So by doing it is you always reinforce the student that gives you the appropriate behavior in order to teach the peers to follow that model. Also differential reinforcement, that's something that we are really working on right now. We're preparing to train a lot of our professionals in the next few months on using these types of reinforcement. So there's other behavior, alternative behavior, incompatible behavior, lower rate. I think other behavior and alternative behavior and incompatible, people are pretty comfortable. It's when it gets to lower rate or higher rate. Lower rate is often when you see a student using inappropriate behavior, but it's so rare that we want to see that behavior more often, so then we'll implement a reinforcement system. Higher rate, it's often when you see, like, if a child does noise, or so we'll do a baseline on a specific time and see how much time the student does it, for example, in half an hour, and then that becomes our baseline. So each time that the student as the behavior under that baseline, then we'll reinforce in order to gradually minimize that behavior in that environment. What people need to understand also about reinforcement is we need to continue reinforcing while the student is in the acquisition phase. I think people often will pull out way too early, but we need to keep on doing it until really the child has shown us that it's working and he knows the different steps. Intermittent is really through the generalization phase, and unpredictable is really through the maintenance. Once the child knows how to behave a certain way, we should be able to really start reinforcing really rarely. The prompting aspect of it, the prompting is there's different types. What I try to eliminate, especially with young children, is to not overuse verbal prompts, because a lot of young children, they get really dependent on verbal prompt, and what's happening, what it's causing is a lot of these children won't take any initiative based on the fact that they know that an adult will guide them and always tell them, get your pencil out, go get your lunchbox, do this, do that. So we try to avoid. Often what we do is really try to use more gesture prompt, visual prompt, positional prompt to guide. And for sure we need to speak at one point, but it's really when you're doing intervention to make sure that you're not overusing verbal prompt, because it's hard to eliminate once you get these young children that are non-motivated or really passive. They always expect the adult to prompt for them and guide them in every aspect. So I've been using a lot of video prompt also, where I show with the iPad what I want to see, and then I ask the child to do it. The fading aspect of it, prompt fading is really important. As soon as you beginning and you implement any form of prompt, you need to always ask yourself, when are you going to phase that out? because if not, again, you see in certain environment where they're still using high ratio of reinforcement, they're still prompting every 2 minutes where they shouldn't, or they haven't really thought about when the fading aspect should have been started. So as soon as you implement any strategies, you should be thinking of the fading process. Shaping, I find it's fun, especially with young kids that are using play. It's really it's really adding new behaviors to the students' repertoire. So if they're doing drawing, is to see if they're able to do shapes and all this, and so then you'll really shape the behaviors you'd want to see, the results you'd like to see, by adding new behaviors within the child to help that child hopefully get the targeted behavior with all the different steps to follow to have success. So this is just a sequence generation, so really showing, so that's just an example to do it. The other aspect, the other aspect that I just wanted to say is also when you do task analysis, what's important also is to do chaining, because once you have you have identified the behaviors you want to ask or the skill you want to teach, you're able to do it through chaining. So either forward chaining, so you teach each step. Once the child is able to get that skill and do it independently, then you move on to the next, or you do it backward, so you help guide, you act as the model, and then at the last step the child will do it, so at least they get success, and then you move on backward. This is really important. I think people are using chaining techniques, but what's so important is to have to implement also task analysis with them, so it gives you your structure to do it, your sequence. So in conclusion, what I'd like to is really what best practice is recommending us to really adopt an interdisciplinary perspective. Also because what it does is we're able to have, we see a lot of the lack of interjudge reliability when it comes to documenting, when it comes to doing observations. So if you work as a team, you're able to collaborate to help one another. Because what we've seen up to now, and what I can share, is we've seen that each observer brings a unique contribution that often is not accessible to other observers, like at home, in different classroom, during lunchtime, no matter where it is if you get that information, you're able to really build a strong intervention plan. Because also some behaviors only occur in specific environment with specific people, so getting that data is really important for us. And also what I'd like to really just finish with is the interdisciplinary can greatly reduce breakdowns in communication, and that's also important, and can enhance the planning, the development, and coordination of services provided to children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beaulne, for presenting to all of our participants on such a great topic today. If anyone has any questions at this time, please click the raise hand button on your control panel, or you can alternatively type your question into the chat box on the dashboard. Okay, so we have a question from Pauline O'Neill. So Shannon will just unmute you, and as soon as you're unmuted, I'll let you know so you can take the floor, Pauline.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, awesome presentation. I just have a quick question about the observation process, and wondering if there are checklists available for us to use, just so that we can stay objective during the observation phase?
That's a great question. What we've done right now is really we tend to develop our grid specifically to the students or the environment. I think what people need to understand is really once you do your observation, if it's anecdotal at the beginning or if it's an incident report, is to really focus on some of the behaviors that tends to come repeat itself often, and then if they're observable and measurable, then you're able to just really have a grid put together where you ask yourself what are the behaviors, what's the activity during the activity and all this. I've got one that I've developed right now for the research that I'm doing on self-regulation with kindergarten students. It's in French.
Okay.
But what I could do is maybe if you need examples or something, maybe you could send me an email. I could maybe help you a bit more and maybe even show you what I'm teaching the professional in my team how to do it, how to develop one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Pauline, we'll we'll connect you with Stéphane after the presentation so he can send you an example, okay? Okay, so now I have a question from Kristen Smith-Robson. For you, Stéphane, it's a two-part question. So her question is, how much have you collaborated with speech-language pathologists in your work, and in what ways have they been involved with you?
Okay, they play an important role in our team. We've done a lot of the working together. Often we do the observation for them, and after that we'll ask them either to do an evaluation or to help us with some children, for example, with selective mutism or with the articulation problems, to see if some of the behaviors that we identify, if it's all related to communication. Automatically I will get one of my colleagues to do observation with me, and then we collaborate, and they are part of our team on a daily basis.
Doesn't make sense. Okay, Kathy Sutherland, it looks like you've tried to ask a question, but unfortunately I only have the first part of it. So if you wanted to try to retype it again. Oh, so Kathy says, thanks for the great presentation. One of the resources we use is Dr. Green's Lost at School. It has a lagging skills checklist to help us identify areas of need. Are there others available that you can recommend?
That's a good resources. Again, it always depends. There is multiple tools out there that we can use. Again, if that person writes to me, I'll be able to see what I have in English. But again, what we've done for us, what's so important is we try to, before using commercial tools or standardized tests, we try to teach the skill of doing observation and really identifying each student's profile, and then based on that implement with what's available within that environment. Because the cost often is too, the time also is really an issue, but for sure there's a lot, but that's a great resource.
Okay, so I have a question from Susan. Which teaching strategies other than modeling reinforcement and prompting have you found to be effective? For example, visual timers, first then boards, or visual schedules.
Yeah, these are great referential to teach organization skills. What we tend to use a lot is really provide different. We use technology a lot, so we tend to use iPad and iPod also a lot to do task analysis within these tools, because for us what's so important is really to create independence. I use also a lot of the like what she said about offering options. We try to always provide options for the children to be able to take decisions in all of this. But again, we use a lot of the in vivo experiential, where we address, we do a lot of scenarios where we teach a skill during circle time, and when children will play different roles to teach, we'll use a lot of the peers to provide guidance to other children. We try to use a lot of the natural availability and not use too much of the referential, because it's hard to generalize that and always have that accessible in different environments.
Okay, so we just have two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up so everyone can return to their busy days. Our next question is from Sherry. She says, "Thank you for a great presentation. I'm wondering how to effectively and mindfully implement a plan to fade or transition prompts."
Yeah, that's the big issue that many professionals have. Is as soon as you, I think the most important is to avoid using verbal prompts immediately. What I tend to do often is to do positional and then redirect a lot to guide the child. And as soon as the child shows me different ways that he's able to complete a task or a targeted behavior, I automatically will test it by asking him to take initiative, asking him to motivate himself, and also use either intermittent reinforcement or task analysis. So the child knows with a task analysis every step that he has to do. After I prompted the student to each step, automatically I keep that task analysis available to that child and will measure how he's able to do it. Then I only use redirections. I don't stay around, but I will reinforce the taking of initiative. We need to use less verbal prompts, especially at that age.
Okay, so our last question is from Kristen. I hear you mentioning involving SLPS with selective mutism and articulation concerns. What we also know is that behavior is to language as smoke is to fire. What is your experience in working with speech-language pathologists with children with autism and with language impairments in kindergarten classes? These have a major impact on behavior, communication, and success in accessing the full-day kindergarten curriculum, especially with the play-based emphasis from the ministry.
Yeah, for us, that's a great question. Like I said before, they are part of our team. Each time we have one speech-language pathologist that is really specific to young children with autism. So each time there's a child with autism coming in the system, automatically we will do observation and provide the tools and do an assessment of the needs of that student, and then work in collaboration. So they might see the child individually, and then from the recommendation we will use it in the classroom and model and coach the different professionals involved in that student's daily life. With articulation, the same thing. So what we've done, what we're creating, is the speech-language pathologist that's with us. She always brings in that expertise. We'll give her recommendation based on the communication aspect of it, and then from that, if she's the first person to go in, she will go in, do the observation, do the assessment, and then do recommendation, and after that, the rest of the team, somebody will collaborate and get involved. I strongly believe in their expertise, and this is why we've implemented this interdisciplinary team, because we need everyone around the table, especially when it comes to language issues. They are an important part of our team.
All right, everyone. Well, that's all the time we have for today. So we're going to end our question and answer session at this time. If you have any further questions, you can email us at info@wbtt.ca, and we will ensure that any additional questions you have get answered. So once again, I'd like to thank Dr. Beaulne for a wonderful presentation, and I'd also like to thank all of our participants for joining us. Don't forget that we'll be sending out presentation notes and a short survey following today's webinar. We would really appreciate your taking the time to fill out the survey so we can use this information when conducting future webinars. Also remember that we'll be sending out a link to this recorded webinar in approximately 1 week. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and have a great day.